Can you guys hear me all right? Checking in. Fuck. Okay, great. Awesome. So, you guys may have noticed that things are a little bit different right now. That's because I have just done a massive update, and I'm on a new I'm actually on a new rig. So I'm installing, or I've just installed all the new goodies, but I don't have a webcam yet. So that's on the list. Hopefully, I'll have that all sorted for next week. But unfortunately, we are without cam today. Audio works, so that's great. I'm expecting lots of things to go wrong, so bear with me here. Yeah, I literally just installed brushes. This is a completely fresh install of everything. Um, yeah, so I'm certain things will pop up that I didn't expect. Yeah, so I'm a little nervous about that, but you can hear me, so we're gonna go ahead and paint, and hopefully we will have minimal hiccups. So we're gonna go right back to where we left off before doing the crit last week, and we will be just focusing on this painting here, figuring out where to go next. Obviously, you guys can ask questions, anything you'd like along the way. Yeah, it's weird because I can't see my own. I can't see and make sure uh, that the screen is actually reading what I'm doing. It's very very tiny on my other monitor. So if you guys can pretty regularly just check in and say, hey, yeah, this is actually functioning now and then when it's quiet, that would let me know that you guys are still there and everything is still smooth. Please and thank you. I'm going to do a quick glazing and unify this ground layer. I've been thinking, you know, randomly about what to do about whatever this is going to be. Still haven't really decided. So I figured we'll procrastinate a little by noodling the ground and getting the ground up to the level where the trees are at. Just double checking again. Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, with that little mix of a delay. Also, I don't have my reference images on this computer yet. Like I said, this was literally assembled last night, so I am going to be completely freewheeling this from here on out, or at least for today. How y'all been? Everything good? I got the newest version of Picker because I haven't updated for the last couple of versions. And one of the things that I noticed is the last time I was the last upgrade I did, there was something wrong with it and it wasn't working. This tone lock wasn't working, so that when you change the hue, it'll still value match over here. But it seems to be back with this version, so I'm really happy about that. It's a little thing, but it's quite useful, and I don't need to go in and tone match when I select a new color. It's pretty great. Oh, I know what window I'm missing. I'm missing my navigator. Whoa. Come on, you. There we are. Ooh. Oh, okay. That's all right. Ah, Rick. Excellent. I saw you had asked that. Thank you for jumping it over here. Um, how do you know which brushes to pick when creating a limited set? You have a hard time limiting brushes while still keeping them effective. You want painterly. Would feel like a lot of bristle brushes clash. Well, there's a couple of ways to approach that. I mean, you can be very hard on the brush. Let me see. Come up here. No, you don't. So, I have a ton of brushes, and I haven't gone through and cleaned them in a while. I could probably cut these down by at least half, based on the things that you don't use. But I'd say one of the sort of long term solutions that you can do is make a note of brushes that you use regularly. I believe in the settings. Oh no, it might be something that you can do with more advanced versions where you can change the color of different brush groups. Or you can just arrange them like I have. I have these little marker sets here. And essentially, the ones that you use more frequently, just put them up towards the front. And then you'll notice over time that the ones that are kind of discarded end up over on the right, unused. Then go through and delete those ones. It's sort of like the closet approach. You know, if you have some clothes you haven't worn in a while, you go back there and you dig those out and take them down to Goodwill, right? So that's one way. That's just sort of like the holistic method in which your 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 use will dictate what's going to be inside your limited set. If you want to think about it in terms of clashing, one of the best things that you can do about sort of matching bristles and textures is making sure that you're using the same textures for your brush assembly. So let's go over here to whoops. Oh, I don't have my toolbar thing. Window. Tool presets, is that it? Oh man, it's funny. I've had the same setup for so long, I don't even know what anything's called anymore. Brush control, there you are. That's what I'm after. What window is this? Ah, yes, okay. All right, so if you have a brush which has a texture on it, you can select different. Oh, jeez, I don't even have textures for these. You can select the texture that you want to use, and then let's say you have something that fits. Like, for example, with my Stalenhag brush set, I used a canvas texture. You would use the same texture for all the different brushes. And by using a singular texture for different brushes, even though they may have disparate bristles, will make them feel kind of like they're in the same family, and they'll behave similarly, especially like their edges and edge control. It can get a little bit hammy if you go too far with that. So I'd say your best bet is to do the first method where you just try all the different brushes, and the ones that you like and the ones that you use more frequently will be the ones that you keep, and you just start discarding the ones that you don't use. It can be really tempting to just have shitloads of brushes, but part of the problem with having a whole bunch of brushes, I don't know if this is necessarily true. I think it's kind of probably a little bit of a conspiracy theory on my part, but I have a feeling that the more brushes you have, the more the more processing power it uses. I'm not certain on that, but I'm used to trying to cut back everything to make sure that the um, that I'm running as lean as possible, because I've been working on a laptop on a boat where my power draw was literally from solar power. So, yeah, that was an important thing. Does that answer your question? Let me fix this real quick. Switch back to that. Oops. Um, I very rarely actually make new brush tips. There's not a lot that I can add to it. Maybe that's actually the issue, is when you're trying to make brush tips. But the one of the things that I think is pretty effective is to take brushes that have, common brush tips, and then changing their behaviors and changing the texture set. That's basic. Basically, that's going to save you a lot of headache with trying to create brushes unless you know exactly what you're after. If you look at brush tips, if you actually look at the little alpha images that other artists have assembled, or people, or actual brush makers, there's people that just do that professionally. If you look at what they do, sometimes it's kind of insane. It doesn't even look like what the stroke does. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So you kind of have to think about how the brush behaviors will work, uh, how the different elements will interact. That's going to be how you get on top of that. It's really, I really don't mess with the brush tips all that much. If you watch I believe there's a smudge brush episode I did where I did make a brush from scratch and showed you how to construct some textures and brushes. But actually, I think that's something like this one. It's sort of just a big scribble. So it's all going to be experimentation, playing with uh, different shapes. Let's grab a green here. Doing little patterns and breaking them up and things like that, and then how they behave when Photoshop applies it per tip as you're drawing and the spacing is tight. Those different little dots create different lines, and I've found when I'm making they make different bristle style lines. But I found when I'm making it myself, I end up making bristles that tend to be too noticeable. They're like too over the top, and that's why I try to avoid them. They don't serve me very well, my brushes. Yeah, it is crazy that there are cats out there that just make shitloads of money making badass brushes. But the fact is that it is an art form. I mean, you really got to respect what goes into it, the thinking necessary in order to pull that stuff off. It's pretty cool. You can teach yourself that. You just really need to familiarize yourself with the brush construction tools, and put in that time. For example, I tried really hard to get into making my own brushes for Procreate, which has a completely different engine for their brushes, and I utterly failed. So I just ended up buying brushes from other people, and then found, I think with the last update, they started making it so that you could import brushes from Photoshop into Procreate. So I did that, and of course, very few of them were exactly the same, so I had to go in and edit them anyway. But yeah, I never did get around to mastering that. I don't like kind of how soft and squishy I've made the ground. So I'm going to try and do something drastic here and see if it fixes things. Uh, it is kind of difficult going back and forth between Photoshop and Procreate on account of the brushes, but I think that's actually a good thing. It forces me personally to paint, to approach the painting differently. When I'm painting here in Photoshop, I get real heavy in lassoing. It's much more shapy, and then when I'm painting with Procreate, it's very much like like painting in oils or something like that. And I definitely have kind of a, my brain goes into slightly a different mode. You know what I mean? Um, all of the problem solving that you can do with Photoshop that allows you to bypass and cut corners on things doesn't, you can't really use those there in Procreate. They're implementing a lot of things, but uh, I think it's interesting that it's different. You'll remember last week, I think it was last week or maybe it was the week before, where I was talking about on the Game Boy, uh, what was it? The DS. I had installed this paint program which only allowed me to use a round brush, and I loved it because it was so simple, and it forced me to only think about how to analyze the shapes and relationships of shapes and colors. I couldn't do anything else. Like even edge control was so tough. I think that's when I kind of really figured out how to play with edge control just using colors, just using banding, and it it was like it was like tying my legs down as a running trainer or something. You know what I mean? There's a new app out. Actually, I haven't downloaded it yet, and I've barely really looked at it, but I've seen some artwork coming out of it that's very similar in the concept that I just mentioned about kind of really taking away all of the extras and making it all about fundamentals. I think it's called Heavy Paint, and that looked really promising. I think that might be something that I pick up down the line, just so I can get that old feel. Sometimes you just got to unify shit with a stroke because it's just too hectic. Okay. Yeah, I think I've turned off the linking thing. If one of you guys can look up Heavy Brush for me so the others can see some of those examples, it's pretty cool. I think the difference is instead of a round brush, it's just basically squares that you can work with. Heavy Paint, thank you. Yeah, it's just squares, and it's so limiting, but in that way, it really forces you to problem solve. All right, let's do something crazy with one of these things. You. I have chosen you. I'm gonna get rid of this because I don't know why that's still open. It's you know what it is actually. My monitor is so much bigger now than my laptop was. I'm actually losing stuff on the screen because it's so damn big. Is it for iPad? Don't know. Oh shit! I didn't turn off the link bot. Damn it! Sorry about that. I don't think it's just for iPad. I think it's one of those multi application apps. I think it might even be free. I'm not 100% sure on that. Okay, I've decided I want to create an effect. I'm going to make this uh, egg, I guess, more. I want to make it emissive, so it's going to glow. So to do that, I need to think ahead, and I want to, in order to make something look brighter, if I have a high contrast or a bright scene, I need to basically the logical approach is just to go brighter and brighter in value, right? But remember that it's contrast that actually makes things that gives things their brightness. So what I'm going to do instead is darken the area around it by glazing everything. First, I need to set to multiply. I'm going to glaze everything around it instead of making it brighter right off the bat. Oh, you can pay for more brushes. That's interesting. I think the lack of brushes is what's actually appealing about it. This might be too soft. Now that I have that effectively as a mask, I can just select the sphere that I want to cut the darks out of. And it'll look emissive just by virtue of the fact that it no longer fits in the value key of the objects around it. I'm going to go behind that. Let's do a real quick screen instead of an opaque. I'm going to go opaque on top of this at the end because I don't like how washy everything's looking right now. I want it to be a little bit more chunky. Too much. Not enough saturation. Sorry if my rotations are making you sick. I'm not used to the machine being this quick. So it's going a little bit. It rotates faster than I expect. Afternoon, Dan Rob. Welcome. Oh, they're not all gonna glow. Just this one. What I'm trying to do is show how easy it is to make an emissive object in a scene. Now, of course, we need a screen on this one, but I think we'll leave it as a clipping mask. Every piece is just for demonstration. Everything I do. Trying to teach myself something or learn something. That's for the, if it's for fun, you know. My work stuff, obviously, I tend to have that a little more worked out. Hmm. Trying to think about what to put in there now. Ideas? Suppose it could just be a person. That'd be weird. A burb? Hmm. Oh no. Inside the ball. Big old chunky burb. Shark pig. She would like that. So, if you're going to try and do something like this, uh, you have to decide what the emissive object is. What is actually casting the light? So, it could be that the creature is casting the light, and therefore that changes the behaviors of, let's say, the liquid inside and then the shell itself. Or let's say the liquid is what's casting the light. Or let's say that there's a light behind the object that's blasting light through so that the creature would be a silhouette in it. This is all stuff to think about. Oh, Irina, didn't you know? This is what I do. I make pleasant things highly unpleasant. No, I think I'm going to keep the colors kind of a little less. Yes, you should always expect that. I have definitely to started, toned this stuff down. You should have seen what I would paint in class when I had actual students. It would not be allowed on YouTube, my friend. That is not a song I wish to listen to right now. Okay. So thinking about it, I want the creature to be in silhouette. I want the light to be in the liquid itself. So how to approach that? Let's make a new layer. I'm going to go ahead and grab a dark and it needs to be a rich color. You know where I'm going right away. Oh yeah, purple. What are you all painting these days? Nice. Scene for a music album? Nice. Portraits? Hell yeah. Oh man, you guys are keeping busy. Digital painting after taking a break? Oh, how was it learning airbrush? Did you have fun with that? Oh, that's great. Yeah, just keep submitting. Now's the time. As I understand it, there's a few new openings. I love painting creepy ass birds. I don't think that anything that happened was directly in relation to magic at all. I think it's just that they let uh, they let the guy go because of complaints about the history. It's kind of weird little thing I'm making there, that's for sure. That's what I'm trying to figure out, Arena. What will be the light source from inside? Because if the light source is the liquid, then the body pressing against the eggshell itself will create dark spots, which is where I started. But I also like the idea of being able to show a little bit about the anatomy of the creature inside. So I'm not sure. I don't have an answer, and as a result, I'm just noodling a little bit, which is as we all know, a waste of time. I guess I'm focusing on creature design to procrastinate on the decision of that, because that really will change things significantly. Well, like I always say, if you're waffling, make a big decision. So let's go ahead and make a big decision. Let's start emitting actual light. I think it was going to be kind of a greeny blue. Well, I think when you're doing the big decision stuff, you are doing kind of a quick and dirty. So we're testing to see if this is the way to go. Up that saturation. Should have picked up. If I'd known I was doing a bird, I would have picked up some bird reference. I'm kind of implying a bird. It's not like it's sort of like half bird, fat little bird slash hatchling squid. I don't know. Don't ask me this shit. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know where the hell I am half the time. Well, I can't think of many eggs that have like vaulted ceilings. I don't know. What do you think, Irina? It's an egg of holding. I think the problem might be I'm making it too fat. Just filling up the space a little too much. Okay. So one of the things that will, excuse me, will help with this, we've got kind of a light source inside, is to round it out first by adding the base. Essentially I'm painting in all the surfaces that are directly touching the sphere as the darkest. Hmm? Do I have a dream job? Great question. Um, of course, I do. But one thing I have learned over the years, after I have managed to pull off working at my dream jobs is that the dream job is a fleeting concept. So once you get your dream job, you will love it, and at some point you will be surprised to find yourself that you are stressed out by it and that it is a job. That will always happen no matter what. Work is work. And it does find a way to get under your skin sometimes. So I've learned over the years, after actually achieving my dream jobs a couple of times now, that that's an it's a loaded concept. It's better to think about it for myself personally. It's better to think about my dream lifestyle instead. Because the job, no matter how great it is, or no matter how great the crew is that you're working with, whatever it is that's drawing you to that specific dream job, it will wear on you at some point eventually. If I were working at a small studio and on a project as a concept artist that got canned, I had to switch to working in Unreal and not painting for 6 months. Would I wait it out or look for something else? Well, that depends. I mean, there's a whole lot of other questions at play there, specifically income, stability. That's a cost benefit analysis more than anything. And the fact is I don't know the costs there. Like, if you are talking about yourself, then, do you got to worry about a family? Like, there's all sorts of things to think about. So I'm hesitant to give any hard advice on that. I think if you think about your career and your output during that career more of as a mountain peak in the distance, and less of think of it as a long-term journey, then it might help you make I use that kind of philosophy to make my decisions. Is, okay, will this take me closer to the mountain, or will it take me further from the mountain? And there's a lot of factors there. So it could be that if you stay at that studio, you're showing that you've got the moxie and you're willing to work it out. And maybe they'll give you more opportunities later. But the problem is that you can never. I would never recommend making decisions based on possible things that a company can offer you. Only make decisions on stuff that's in writing, because a company doesn't give a shit about you. It's just a fact. No matter how small, no matter how sweet the crew, it's not unless it's a full-on worker co-op. I mean, like straight awesome Marxism or something. They're not gonna put your priorities first. So always keep that in mind. Try not to make decisions based on what you think they may offer you. Only real cemented offers for us. A lot of the corporate folks know that we think about things like dream jobs, dream projects, and it gets used against folks like us a lot. They look for people that, are hard workers, that are passionate, and then they'll wring it out of you, and then you end up with nothing. Yeah, I've done some art directing, but I've never been credited as an art director. So technically, no, I have not been an art director, though I have definitely done the job. I've art directed commercials. Um, I've done a lot of outsource art direction, game direction, things like that. I love it. That would be like asking a dream job. I would very much like to work on a big project as a an art director. I've been a lead. That was the last in studio gig I did, as I was a lead concept artist, which was very much basically being an art director at that studio, and it was great experience. The problem is I just could never put it on my resume. I'm not sure about this eye. I'm gonna cover it up and see if I can come up with something better. You're scared of that? Your art output decreases. Um, have you tried the flipping a coin trick? Have a friend flip a coin and you call out what you're going to do. So you assign, I'm going to leave as heads and I'm going to stay as tails. And then have your friend flip the coin. And whatever that first reaction is before the coin is revealed tells you what it is you actually want to do in your heart of hearts. I've just heard about it. I've never actually done that myself. I tend to trust my gut pretty hard. Well, the good thing about that being your first in house job is that you got it. So, getting one in house job will lead to more in house jobs. Yeah, have somebody else flip the coin so you can't trick yourself. You can't tickle yourself, you can't trick yourself. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and I like the idea, but that head's not working for me. So let's see what else we can build. New layer. What is my dream lifestyle? Hmm. Well, I kind of did one. That was the boat thing. Um, he's being a little coy bird. Look at him. He's bashful. He's a bashful little creeper. Um, I think what I'd like next is to do something in the middle of my last two extremes. The first extreme was when I went to college and I worked my ass off in college. I think for the majority of that I would sleep, not counting weekends and holidays, only 2 to 4 hours a night, and that was for years. It was insane. I worked so hard, and then once I was out, I worked super super hard to get rid of my loans because I graduated with a massive debt. Who knew that art college could cost so much, right? Um, then I went into studio life and I kind of I did relax a lot, but I definitely still kept like a really hard work ethic. So I wouldn't say it was, I don't feel like I burned out. I feel like I hit the ceiling for what I could achieve the, mm, with the politics at play and all of that stuff. I got as far as I could get, and it seemed like I couldn't really get any further. So I decided to go freelance instead, and that was pretty good. I enjoyed freelancing, and then discovered while freelancing that it's super expensive. Of course, it was the same price, except now I didn't have the same. Living in LA, I didn't have the same income as I did when I was working in a studio. So it kind of made sense to move. And right around that time is when I picked up sailing, and I kind of put the two together. So that's how I ended up out there. And I loved it. It was great. I don't know if you guys remember what it felt like as a kid, just running around during summer vacation, like just doing what you wanted to do when you wanted to do it, falling down and sleeping in the sun wherever. That's basically what I did for the last 5 years. I still worked, but my work, because the cost of living was so low, it was so much more free. That freedom was incredible, and I loved it, loved it, loved it. So I don't think I want to give that up entirely, but I do miss working with other people. Like, I really miss the camaraderie, and I loved being on a team. I love helping other artists grow, and I love making projects. I love making stuff. That's just basically one of my most favorite things to do. So I I want something in the middle of that. So my ideal lifestyle right now would probably be a job where I can work remotely and in house as an art director or game director. Um, and then I also have time, like like smaller projects probably, so smaller games or animations, things like that, where I don't need to be in meetings all the time, but I'm still contributing at a deeper level. I think that's one of the good things, if there can be such a thing, out of what's going on these days, is that they're all this working from home remote stuff is really showing that it's a very effective way to get stuff done, especially with games. So hopefully, I'm hoping rather that in the future that will be a more standard method of interacting. One sec, guys. Sorry, I keep getting a call. Gotta tell him to stop. Okay. It sucks that my boat got a leak. Yeah, that was pretty rough. Sailing is great. It's an amazing, it's a really amazing pastime. That's another thing that I'd like to do more of. Ironically, living on a sailboat, I didn't do a whole lot of sailing because when you sail, you're moving your entire house. So it's kind of a pain in the ass. Um, but a little small boat would be great to have, so I can go sailing. There's few things that clear your head, like going out on the water like that. It's really incredible. I recommend everybody try it. No, I haven't sold the boat yet. I've got people checking it out pretty soon, but no actual sale yet. Gonna switch my brush up just for variety's sake. It's like a half Sasquatch, half bird thing. I don't know if I like all the changes I just made. You know what it is? It's that shoulder. I don't like that. Yeah, it's better without it. Oop. All right, let's do a quick experiment here. I'm gonna just go ahead and merge these. So now we've cemented the bird. It's one burb. Let's grab the shell, put it back on top, and then I'm going to mask it, invert it, and paint in the shell where the light is hitting it from above and see if we can get a good effect. Whoops, don't want to do that. Don't ever paint on, when you're masking something, always remember you're only working on the mask. So it's got to come from one direction. I think this might be a good spot, yeah, to obfuscate. It's interesting. I want it to have. I'm finding that the smudge here is too. It's softening things too much, and I think this is because this is an older brush set, and I have since worked out the kinks on this smudge brush. So I got to double check and make sure that I've got the right one on this new machine. I think I'm going to try and make them somewhat stony, just a little bit more texture, but not much. But this is the question: is how much of the bird am I willing to lose in order to show the original shell? Some, of course, needs to happen, but it's really going to be kind of a little finesse game I'm going to play here. This might be where we decide to do things narratively instead of logically. I also like kind of the weird colors that that top is introducing back in. We'll leave it there for now, and then we'll do a lighting pass on the bird and see if that helps separate the shell a little bit. I don't know why the feathers are becoming fur, but I'm just going with it. I don't know. What do you guys think? It's better with the stone. Hmm. Hmm. You might be right that there could be something to adding a Fresnel, but in doing that, you have to deal with breaking the emissive aspect, which is doable. Again, narrative trumps logic. So let's uh, let's see if it works. We can try. Can never hurt to try. Are you guys seeing a slight flicker as well, or is that just me? Okay. It might actually be on the actual monitor projection end rather than it's a new monitor. I haven't figured out the settings for it yet. It's fancy new gaming nonsense. So one of the things in relation to bristles that I wanted to talk about is see how all of those shapes are exactly the same. This is kind of the problem that develops when you're using really strong bristle shaped brushes is you can end up with like really heavy patterning. Now this happens in reality with a real brush too, but you can rotate your wrist a little bit or change the angle of attack a little bit, and that can help a lot. And I know there's ways to do that as well. I hate everything I just did there in terms of smudges. There's ways to do that as well the brush controls, but I'm not messing with that right now. It's one of the things that kind of comes just naturally with the with Procreate. All right, let's try that for now. In order to have it, we either need to go brighter or we have to go darker. Since it's a sort of dim, it's a bright light, I got to dim it a little bit on the back end. Just a little bit more. Might have overdone it there, but let's go ahead and see. Ugh. This is a different brush set. Yeah, it's definitely better. All right. Let's see. I think I'm going to lower the opacity of both of those just a tad. If I gave him little human feet, this would be the bad bird painting I did a while ago. You should look it up, it's pretty funny. ahead and do a screen pass. See what that gives us. Just a little bit of bloom goes a long way. Let's do another one, set it to color dodge. Color dodge is useful because it will only attack the midtones and it'll leave the darks relatively alone. So it's good for popping up color and saturation on midtones. I want to add, let's see. Let's do a full bloom behind this thing. I want to separate the this foreground one a little bit. This is filling the atmosphere in between the spaces, creating more of a brightness. It's a subtle effect, but it will make it look brighter than it is. Let's go back. Add some more to this guy. Oops. What is giving me that hard edge back there? Is that just the rock itself? Might just be. No? Ah, that's where it is. I think we'll hint at that color cast just a little bit in the distant ones. So subtle you probably wouldn't even notice it. Now I want to do, let's see. Let's do an atmosphere pass too. Definitely got to be warmed up. Particulates tend to aggregate closer to the ground on account of gravity, of course. Okay, let's close the burb for a minute. Now, I have a bunch of scribble detail in here, which is creating kind of a basic overall visual noise, which I'm not liking. It still feels kind of muddy to me. But we'll render a little bit on this ground, but I want to make sure that I focus my rendering according to the focal point. So there's my focal point, meaning that the rendering that I'm going to do, where I'm going to put the most juice, will be closest to that focal point in order to prevent a whole lot of staring into the depth. A little bit's good. Too much, not good. Countering a little bit of that overt brushy detail I've got back there by just doing big planes. That's the same one that got me in this mess in the first place. You can get away with a lot when you have a focal point going on. You may not even notice the stuff that I'm painting because the focal point is so strong now. If you've got an element that's just kind of pointing directly at your focal point, but doesn't have, it's not seated, it doesn't feel like it should be there, it's going to stand out. So I'm trying to populate this area with more twigs so it feels a little less goofy. Which means also it's a good idea to imply that there's twigs in the back too. If you introduce an element, you got to add some shadows no matter what. The lights have to apply to everything. Can that be super scribbly? Oh, hell yeah. just so long as things feel consistent. Give me an idea. Hey, good night, Irina. Sorry, I wasn't much talking this time. Take care. Rest well. Yeah, I got no idea what's going on still. It's all random. Hmm. Definitely weird. Good idea to break up the edges just a little bit. This is kind of tough because I'm painting now several layers deep with a lot of overlap, and it can get really difficult to figure out what the color will look like. Just a little bit for overlap. I'm also kind of digging the idea that these are like baby moons. This is the forest where the moons grow. Dunno. Dunno if they all have birds inside. Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe the other ones have something worse. I think that's all she wrote on this one. That's done. Ship it. I'm excited to start something new for the next get together. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty funny. A little goofy. I might go in and do a little bit more detailing on the bird, just a final little pass to maybe round out the little phalanges on the claws, and maybe add a little tiny bit of specular here and there. But I think that's pretty much done. So yeah, hopefully you guys all enjoyed hanging out, even though it was a super quiet one this time and you didn't get to see my dumb painting face. I'm going to try and have all that stuff sorted out by next week. Yeah, anyway, I think that covers it. You guys have any last minute questions? Yeah, it was fun streaming. Always enjoy hanging out with you guys. Thank you all. All right, well, I think that'll do it. Yeah, we'll see you next week. As always, paint smart, paint sexy.
Hi there. I'm Izzy, a professional writer, concept artist, and illustrator. I've taught painting for a dozen years or so, on and offline. Many of your favorite illustrators and designers have studied with me or under me and have gone on to teach in their own right. You're here because, like they did, you want to learn to paint realistically for illustration or concept art. Well, worry not. You're in the right place. Grab a seat. I want you to join me as I explain all the aspects of image making in extremely digestible and clear monthly lessons. Not through the lens of silly how to paint hair or eye demos. That shit is carnival tricks. And you're not really learning anything except an exact way to render one thing in one manner. This is painting mysticism at its worst. Watching these kinds of exploitative lessons won't help you level up with your understanding. Sure, now you can paint sparkly hair, but what if you want to paint a dragon, or figure out how to render a sea of fire, or depict a one-eyed transgender space marine dying in the vacuum of space? Painting and image making are tools of communication, and can be learned by anyone willing to put in some time. Like grammar is for language, light, color, and form literally follow a formula. Painting well is not a matter of chicken bones, zombie crackers, and the ever-dismissive concept of talent. Learning with my series, Izzy's Logic of Light and Color, will give you the tools and understanding so you can analyze light and form in reality and bring it to life in your work. Using this simple system I have distilled will help you harness your art to share your ideas as you've always intended. When we are children, we all draw in symbols. Symbols for our house, our hands, the sun, the grass, our pet lobster. As we grow into artists, we must learn to throw away symbols and begin to draw and paint what it is we actually see. And as we grow further, we learn to paint beyond what we see and what is actually there. Until finally we move beyond this and learn to trim away what is actually there so we voice only what we want. With me, you're going to have to buckle in and maybe take some pain meds, because I'm going to rip out your normal person's eyes and replace them with a painter's eyes. I'm going to restructure how you see and how you understand what you're seeing. I'm going to turn you into a painting machine. Truly, anyone can learn to paint realistically if they can both determine what they're seeing or imagining with basic and straightforward rules. Once you understand the mechanics of light, color, and form in reality, you will have the capacity to paint anything you can see or imagine realistically. After that, the real fun begins. Here are some of the ways you can join me and master the logic of light and color. The very first lesson of my series is totally free on my YouTube channel. In that lesson, I give you the 3 primary rules of light that are the very foundation of painting and understanding light itself. If you do nothing else to make your painting mastery easier, at least watch this amazing little lesson. It will do more for your basic understanding of light than just about any tutorial you can find. When you're ready to get deeper and you feel like you have those first rules figured out, allow me to utterly blow your mind with the next episodes available on Gumroad and ArtStation. As we go deeper into the rules underlying the logic of light and color, I carefully and simply explain important and interesting elements. From beginner to pro, there is an amazing amount of information available. Each concept has been distilled into the clearest explanation you're likely to find anywhere. Like episode 2, where we cover the atmospheric effect and how that relates to light, scale, and distance of objects in reality, and how to render it. Or episode 3, where I hand over the ultimate key to controlling value in your paintings. Episodes 5 through 8 are all about rendering materials. Want to understand the logic behind rendering metal, leather, hair, transparency, damn near anything. I even cover the logic behind painting special effects like fire, neon, or lightsabers in later episodes. The lessons just get deeper and more detailed as I build on the foundations covered in preceding episodes. The 10th gives you the most important rule of composition you'll ever learn to keep your images interesting. The next few episodes cover important painting techniques like my edge control ninjutsu or simplification with the large to small system. We dip a toe in color theory, devote a few episodes to finishing full-blown illustrations utilizing the techniques we've learned so far. Some episodes, like the lighting game or Advanced Exercises 1, the shirt, present cheap, valuable, and practical exercises to give you explosive growth in your development. Episodes 22 through 25 cover painting and illustration, just like I do for Magic the Gathering, from assignment and inception to signing the painting at the end. Each one is full of tips, knowledge, everything to make working as an illustrator easier. Did you enjoy learning how to paint basic materials? Metal, wood, and such? I got 3 whole episodes devoted to the intricate logic behind painting different kinds of skin. After that, more lessons devoted to pumping life into your portraits and original methods for accurately drawing faces out of your head. From fundamentals to photo bashing, Gumroad and ArtStation have every lesson I create available for purchase a la carte. But here's an even better way to learn with me. Stay current with my latest lessons on Patreon for the lowest price available. Monthly support gets my student that month's lesson, a critique or paint over of their finished work, a discount code for 25% off the entire Gumroad archive, and access to the Logic of Light and Color Discord community, where we plan future lessons, share knowledge, and learn together as a team. The absolute best method is to join my Patreon classroom at the Student Plus tier, where you'll get everything I just mentioned and a free episode from the archive every month to accelerate your mastery at your own pace. You've decided to take control of your painting and master Izzy's logic of light and color. Now it's up to you to choose the path that's best for you. I'll see you on the flip side. Paint smart, paint sexy.